Welcome!
Welcome to the Omniverse of Nick and Part 9 to What If Mercenary Tao Turned Good. Before we get into it, be sure to check out the Omniverse's homepage where our channel mascot Omni will direct you to the Discord, both Google Docs, and everything else the Omniverse has to offer, along with smashing the like button, subscribing to the Omniverse of Nick, sharing the Omniverse around and turning on all Omniverse notifications, and commenting future requests and expectations in the comments section. With all that said, let's begin. We open up where we ended off last time. But the fated days arrived. Vegeta and Nappa have arrived on Earth and destroyed the same city, but this time they're not here for the Dragon Balls, because they weren't revealed to them in this timeline. They're here instead to look for the people who killed Raditz, and just fight Kakarot, and so on and so forth. But then Nappa, whenever he's pulling up the scouter and the readings with power levels over 1,000 and definitely beyond that, he notices Raditz isn't dead, and he's actually in the vicinity of those other power levels. Vegeta definitely is confused by this and says if that traitor is alive and turned on the Saiyan cause, he'll just join Kakarot and his friends in a tombstone. And Vegeta and Nappa fly towards the area and confront our warriors. Yajirobe, Gohan, Krillin, Roshi, Yamcha, Appa, Raditz, and Tao all are ready and waiting for the Saiyans. Nappa looks over and sees that it's true. Raditz really is alive and he's with them. And Nappa says, what to do now about Raditz? And what about Kakarot? But Vegeta says, no worry. If Raditz truly has joined his inferior brother Kakarot, and Kakarot somehow isn't here, or maybe he's dead or just fleed, then they can just make an example of their once quote-unquote comrade Raditz and kill all of Kakarot's friends. Wherever he is, he'll have to see all of his friends' bodies on the ground by the time he returns. And Nappa is looking more than forward to pay the supposed once ally Raditz a very, very stern beating and get rid of all the other weaklings. Raditz says, if you really think that I am the same Raditz, you are both fools to even think twice about underestimating me. And Tao says, you're also wrong about two things. First, Goku, the one you call Kakarot, isn't dead or not. And he has not fled from us. Matter of fact, he's training. And whenever he gets here, which will be a lot sooner than you might think, there won't even be two of you for him to have to help us with. You're wrong if you think you can come here and try to take our home and the people's lives here away. So go ahead, come at us with everything you've got. Nappa is just angry at this, but Vegeta tells him, calm down. These Earthlings and Raditz just are having ideas above their station. There's no way that Kakarot's training and is stronger than them, let alone these fools here in Raditz. So, he tells Nappa, get out the Cybermen and test them. So, Nappa has the Cybermen capsule and plants the Cybermen. And he tells them to attack. Krillin fights the first one, and he beats him. Yamcha fights the next one. Then the Cybermen grabs onto him, ready to self-destruct. But that's not going to happen here, because this is a far different Yamcha than ever before. And no, this is not a Yamcha turn good where it's like he's going to avoid fighting the Cybermen or like be friends with the Cybermen or just not fight the Cybermen at all. This is a just full-blown on workaround and strong-suited Yamcha that we've already seen play out that you're about to get a more visual aid of seeing. When the Cyberman grabs onto Yamcha, ready to self-destruct, Yamcha illuminates a giant mouth beam that shows a spiritual energy wolf coming out of his mouth in the form of a mouth beam called the Gigantowolf Bite. So think of it as a mouth beam. These moves are like the Dragon Fist, so to speak. Except Yamcha, I'm putting more of a fine line on his moves like the Wolf Hurricane or the Wolf Fang Fist. Stuff like that, you know? Stuff that shows the illuminating figure of a wolf and truly goes 100 and freaking 50% beyond that with this new Yamcha. So Yamcha uses this mouth beam Wolf's Gigantobite, and it not only disintegrates the Cybermen, but it frees Yamcha. And Yamcha's only a little bit phased by this. And if it didn't, if he didn't put all of his power into this, or if it didn't hurt him, he would just find a way to like level the blast and then just kill the Cybermen after, or it would just kill him. It really doesn't matter. Either way, this would be what honestly makes up for Yamcha's, death in canon by like 6,000 fold. And whenever the Cybermen Turn Good story comes around the corner, which will be kind of a remake in its entirety, it will even make that way of Yamcha surviving look tame in comparison. Then the next Cyberman fights Yajirobe, goes for the acid, but Yajirobe looks at the Cyberman and says, "You look tasty. I'll eat ya." And he goes in and just slices and dices the Cyberman like crazy. And the Cyberman has no answer for this. Upa is the next one to fight. The Cyberman rushes forward. Upa throws a giant axe. The Cyberman sees this, claws at the axe, and then teleports. But Upa uses his senses and all of his training that he has done. And he gets a sword out. And just like Yajirobe, he just slices the Cyberman into pieces right as he teleports behind him, showing Upa has trained a lot. Like, a lot. Yajirobe being one of the main fighters he's trained with, but on his own before he even saved, Raditz and everybody in the last episode. So, yeah. Gohan then gets confronted by the Cybermen, who teleports behind him. But this Gohan, like I said, he is not a little scaredy little frickin' coward kid like in canon. So he actually puts up a very good fight against the Cybermen and kills him. Roshi, I don't even need to tell you that he could take on a Cyberman, let alone not get self-destructed by one. I mean, look at what he's already done in the story so far. And it's not even DBS yet. Like, come on. So, yeah, he beats the Cybermen, no sweat. Then, Tao and Raditz team against Nappa. Nappa powers up, but he finds that he's actually having trouble against the two of these guys. It's like, what? So, he uses a blazing storm to try and get all of them off their guard. But then, Tao and Raditz use a combination move nobody, including the Saiyans, was expecting. They use a double Sunday Super Dodon Ray, or, a double Super Dodon Sunday Ray. Basically a combination of Tao's Super Double Dodon Ray and Raditz's Double Sunday. Whatever you guys want to call it. They use this combined move, and Nappa is just completely blown aback by it. So it doesn't just injure him to point to getting his armor, almost completely destroyed. It destroys his armor, and it actually injures Nappa. And he's getting really angry. This is the point much earlier Vegeta tells Nappa to calm down and think. Don't let their weird combination moves and their growing number strategy and no Cybermen killing him get the advantage on what Nappa has as power. Just calm down, think, level them, and actually concentrate. So Vegeta's actually giving much more solid advice here, because he's going against more than one guy. And, the Earthlings put Nappa on a small back foot before Goku showed up in canon, but not this much. So, yeah. Nappa powers up once again to full power, and he uses a gigantic storm and then a mouth beam. But Raditz and Mercenary Tao use a combined Kamehameha, and Nappa tries, after his mouth blast is canceled out, to use a Bomber DX, but he just barely saves himself from being completely, destroyed, and is crouched on the ground with one hand on the ground. And is like, at this point, Nappa doesn't have anything left. Vegeta just looks. He's disgusted by the fact that Nappa is losing to these fools, and he now knows that he's going to have to save his brick-headed spastic partner from these guys, and he's actually going to have to step in to deal with weaklings. Nappa and the Cybermen didn't even kill one of them. But then, Vegeta gets a reading on his scouter, and he notices they weren't lying. A very high power is coming towards all of them, and that must be Kakarot. And he tells Nappa he is going to be coming in. So if Nappa really values his life, he'll start actually showing him that he's less than, more than worthless, and actually kill at least one of these fools, as Vegeta prepares to clean up the mess Nappa and the Cybermen have failed to. They can't risk having all 9 of them team against them. But Krillin cuts Vegeta off mid-sentence and uses a Destructo Disc, and literally, like a fan-made article of Krillin killing Nappa, completely destroys his legs. So yeah, Nappa is now crippled on the ground with no legs, bleeding out profusely. Krillin then uses a spread scatter shot blast, launches it down, and it seemingly kills Nappa. Vegeta now is fully on to fighting all of them. Do the fighters stand a chance against Vegeta with no casualties before Goku arrives? And if they do, does Vegeta have any answer for what the Z fighters have not yet brought against him? Or has this just turned into a very bad situation to make Vegeta either more desperate or to launch a counteraction of events with no Dragon Ball mention and a further fine road ahead for Tao's redemption story?
Now get out!
What?
Get out! Everybody get out!